Hello everyone and welcome to Vegan Bloomers. I am Luna, the founder of Vegan Bloomers, Connect, Inspire and Learn. And today I would like to welcome our star vegan, Steve. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. So let's begin with where you're based, how old you are, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm 56. I grew up on a farm. So I didn't start out as vegan, and I thought that growing up and living with nature and living off the land was the way to do it. And so, yes, over the years, taking different twists and turns and things like that shaped my life in a different way than I thought.
Awesome. Sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to our conversation. So what kind of things are you into and where do you live?
I live in Swindon. What am I into? The truth.
Nice. I like it.
Finding answers. I'm not a sort of person that I like to know how things work. If I'm driving a car, I want to know how it works. So I feel if I'm using this body, I want to know how it works.
Very cool. I like it. So let's talk about your story. So where did your veganism all begin? Where were you before and how long ago did it all happen?
Well, it happened gradually. When I was about, I used to try and eat some meat to be, our meat and two veg. We were told that was the way to do it. So growing up on a farm, I can't say that I was a great meat eater, but I would eat some because I thought it was the healthy thing to do. And then I think it's about 2003, I was a Reiki master. Awesome. And when I did the Reiki Healing, it changed me, because then if I put toxins in my body, I didn't feel right. So if I drank alcohol, I didn't feel right for a day or so. So those poisons, those toxins in my body. And then I'd eaten meat that I had shot, and I was kind of, didn't think too much of it. And then one Sunday afternoon, I went to my mum's. My nephew worked at Sainsbury's and got a ready roasted chicken. And I just had my mum did the vegetables. I had a couple of mouthfuls of chicken because that's probably all I would eat anyway. And I was just doubled up with stomach cramps. And for me, after doing the healing, the reason for that was all animals are killed in fear. And that was what I was putting in my body. And I just said to my mum, I said, I can't do this anymore. So I haven't eaten meat for like 19 years.
Wow, incredible.
Didn't stop me from doing the other stupid thing, was having dairy, because again, I thought that I needed the protein. So I would eat eggs and cheese and have milk and cereals. So it wasn't for another 10 years that I was in the sauna at the gym, and I was chatting to this lad, and I told him that I was vegetarian, and he said, well, why don't you go vegan? We're vegan. And I said, I couldn't, because I have milk in my cereal every morning. He said, well, have almond milk. And okay, I thought, well, I can't really give out information to people if I don't take it on board myself. So I gave up. I watched a video called a documentary, a panorama, The Truth About Sugar.
Okay.
So I gave up sugar about the same time as I gave up dairy. So that was about 9 years ago. And yeah, that was a challenge for me, because I think I'd had like cheese every day from school up to, getting on for 50. And cheese was my thing. I didn't realize that we're actually addicted to it. Mm-hmm. Sugar and cheese is that addiction. I didn't realize. But I watched a program, and I gave them up at the same time. And then about 3 months later, my skin was completely different all the time.
In what way?
Well, I was getting to nearly 50 and, still struggling with spots. And I didn't realize it's just the fat out of the cheese that's coming out through your body. I guess it affects different people in different ways. But my skin cleared up after about 3 months.
Wow. Amazing.
And then you start seeing the difference, especially when you cut out things like sugar as well, because people think they need sugar for energy, but what they don't realize is all that sugar's doing is giving you a sugar rush followed by a sugar crash.
Yeah.
So then I moved to a different gym, and then there was no sauna. So I didn't want to finish in half an hour. I wanted to do a proper workout. So, one day the guy that worked there came up to me and said, "Crikey, you're going like a train." And I looked at the time, and I'd been in there nearly 2 hours. And I couldn't have done that before on animal products and sugar. And that's what took me so long to work out, because, of course, we're deceived.
So are you, I'm assuming, probably whole-based plant food eater?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very, very clean now.
That's awesome.
I've done fasting. I mean, I think that's really important for people to look at, especially if people are interested in their health. All through our history, there's been fasting. The Israelites wandered the desert for 40 years, and they collected manna from heaven that was on the desert floor. And it says in the Bible, and on the 7th day they fasted. I'm not into religion, but it's just information. And then there was something else that I was very interested in. An anthropologist was watching the tribe in the Amazon, and one of the tribes came back from the forest, or members of the tribe came back from the forest, and they'd made a kill. So they all went to the village. The village all prepare the food together, and then they eat. And this is what he said. When they'd eaten, they didn't even attempt to eat again for the next 2 days. So our teachings of needing to eat 3 times a day, that's fine. But look, what we need to do also, I think, is look at the benefits. And some of the things I came across was that on a 72-hour fast, whatever you research and decide that is, your immune system regenerates itself and your DNA repairs itself. Now, I think that's really important, because they put genetically modified foods into our food chain, and they're not supposed to. And yet I've been to a major supermarket, and there's these big tubs of vegetable oil, and it quite clearly says genetically modified soya.
Oh, really?
Now, 80% of the world's soya is genetically modified. Not everybody knows that. Quite a few people are. But the first thing people start talking about when they're going vegan is, oh, better have some soya or tofu, or, it's just certain food lines that they think that you have to have. What I also found out was that there are restaurants in the country that use this genetically modified oil. And when they do that, they're supposed to put a sign up in the shop to say, or in the restaurant to say that they use genetically modified ingredients. Of course they don't, because they don't want to put the customers off. And they're only saving £6 a week or something, but they're quite happily use that. And if you know anything about genetically modified foods, I would say poison their customers just for the sake of £6 a week. Now, the penalty for using genetically modified foods is nothing. It's put a sign up. Now, if you went to poison someone deliberately, you would go to prison. And yet it seems to be that the government and all these giant organizations are quite happy to poison you. And what's more than that is there is a rule that if you use 1% or less of a genetically modified ingredient, you don't have to disclose it. And in South, yeah, and in so all this soya that goes into the bread, you have to ask the question: are they putting it in there because it's genetically modified and it's cheap? According to one main bread manufacturer that I messaged online, they said, no, we don't use any genetically modified food. So when I copied and pasted this paragraph that said, even if they do, they don't have to disclose it, I didn't get a response.
Oh.
And then there were some of the other supermarkets, they were all using they were all using soya in their bread, but some of them have now stopped.
Oh, that's interesting.
Especially when their argument was, we use it because it improves texture. Well, we didn't use soya before, so I think there's something going on there, and they must know, so therefore they're liable.
Yeah.
Now, I did read an article where it said in South Africa, they found that there was up to 5% genetically modified ingredients in their products, but again, they didn't get punished. There is no punishment. So somebody is systematically setting out to disrupt our food chain.
It's awful, isn't it? Like how, you know, and I learned from a young age, and actually, to be honest, probably when I first went vegetarian, how deceptive food was. Like, why is it so hard to just be transparent? Because it's like yesterday I was having a conversation, we were talking about wine, and my friend was like, well, what's in wine that's not vegan? And we were like, well, fish bladders. And then he was like, but it doesn't tell you that. And I was like, of course it doesn't tell you that. That's gross. Like, people are not going to drink that if that's in the ingredients, you know? But it's just...
I think they use the enzymes of the calf stomach or something like that, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, it just blows my mind that they're like, especially because, you know, England has this rule that you have to have the ingredients, like, but they're not even putting all the ingredients in. So what's the point? Like, they're not even meeting the criteria properly. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, so therefore you'd have to assume that the people at the top making those decisions know what they're doing. And of course, the most frustrating thing for anybody who wishes to raise the vibration of their body towards where we should be going, towards love, and not holding the vibration of your body back to fear by what you consume. You know, it is very frustrating, the things that are going on that are not helping you to do that. And of course, we actually, even vegans, fund the torture and the suffering of animals because we pay taxes, and those taxes are paying for the meat industry. It's a very clever system.
Yeah, it is.
The pharmaceutical industry works in the same way. It's just a scam. We end up paying it through our taxes, and then people have cheap milk on the table and they go, oh, look, it's cheap. No, it's not cheap. You've just paid for it and subsidized it so that it appears cheap. Yeah.
So it sounds pretty clear to me that your beginning of your journey was a lot to do with health. So how did you get more into the animal side of it?
I don't do that much to be with the animals. I think it just all works together with me. It's not separate. I grew up on a farm, so I think I've had all the animals, and now I just have a few fish. I would like to do more for the environment, and that would be my future projects to do more in that way. It's difficult to see how the farming industry can work with animals when they're not slaughtering them. So I don't know where our industries will go. I think there will come a time where they will just cease, because people won't want to have that sort of food in their diets. And I think very, very quickly we'll get there.
Yeah.
And then maybe, I don't know, where would our animals be kept? They would be more as petting, or keeping the species going. At the moment, everything's, money based. So people only keep animals if they can make money off of them. And that's got to change.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you ever have an experience where, like, because obviously living on a farm and being so close to the animals, did you ever have an experience where you just suddenly were like looking in their eyes and then you could see the pain and the fear, or anything like that started to make you think, this is not okay to harm our animals?
I think that's what I value the most in my experiences. It's not going to be what everybody wants to hear, but the fact that I've had that experience. One thing I don't like is where people eat meat and they get it out of a box, and it's a pretty coloured box, and they have no connection to what they're eating. And at least I can say I've done that, and I've experienced it firsthand, and I've chosen a different path. But yes, and one of my favourite books is the Conversation with God books, and in there it says just what you've said, and so I can relate to that. I mean, I love the animals I had. I kept some goats, and you can just, I had a pet crow that used to follow me around and land on my shoulder, and when we went for a walk, we would go with the ponies, the goats would come, the cats, the dogs, the crow, all going along together. So yeah, absolutely. You've just got to, it's like consciousness is inquisitiveness. Consciousness wants to learn, to experience. And if you look at any animal, whether it's a rabbit, it wants to know, it wants to explore. If that's not consciousness, then I don't know what is. And I think every animal has that consciousness, that soul. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. So did you, when you first decided to go vegan, how did your, obviously because you were living on a farm at the time, like how did your family,
No, I'd moved into town.
Oh, okay.
I'd unfortunately,
how did your friends and family respond to you when you decided to make such a drastic change?
Well, I don't understand my family, you see, because they've all done Reiki, so I don't understand how they can have done Reiki and then still eat animals.
Yeah.
And then I've got friends that are animal lovers. They say, there's any strays, they take them home, and yet they still eat meat. So I kind of, as the time's gone by, I've gone more to,
towards having vegan friends.
Yeah. And then
I get that.
And then I've taught, I've spoken to other people. I've got friends that are diabetic, and so we've had the conversation, and they've tried different diets. Some of them have been all meat diets, and I'm going, well, what, why are you doing that? And then I find out afterwards that they're pretty much eating what I'm eating, just a plant-based diet. And then, of course, you have to explain all the time. People go, crikey, you're really muscly. Where'd you get your protein from? And I go, oh, here we go. What protein? Who told you how much protein you need? And yeah. I don't take any supplements, and I train pretty much every day. I don't take any protein supplements, and people just can't get into their head that, how can you be so muscly and, do that. And so then I, try and explain. And maybe one of the ways to do it is to say, well, if you want to be toned and muscly, if you're eating meat or dairy or like cheese, it's 70% fat. So if you're eating products which are 70% fat, how are you going to get that fat out of your body? Even if you've got muscles, it's not going to be as defined and toned if you're, but just years of brainwashing, I guess. Yeah, conditioning. Yeah, we grew up being told that you need to have milk for strong bones. And then, of course, we know that milk doesn't give you strong bones.
It weakens them.
Sorry?
It weakens them.
Exactly. It's true that there's lots of calcium in milk, but you can't actually absorb that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if we told lies against the meat industry or against the dairy industry like that, they'd have us all in court. If we told lies against the pharmaceutical industry, we'd all be in court. But they can lie and get away with it. So
yeah, it's all messed up, isn't it?
I guess their time is coming.
I think so.
The truth will come out, and their lies will collapse. And so will they.
When you mentioned that you struggled a bit to give up cheese, is there anything now that you like that you miss that you used to have?
Well, I suppose the taste of cheese, but I couldn't manage to eat it now. The longer I've gone without animal products, the less I crave them. I didn't realize, though, that sugar does the same thing to the brain as cocaine.
Yeah.
So, and they scan the brain of somebody who had cocaine and someone who'd had sugar, and the same parts of the brain light up. I didn't realize that cheese has got something similar to heroin, and that's why they put cheese on the meats and everything that they want to get you addicted to. They put dairy on it.
Mm.
So
see, I knew it was addictive, but I didn't know that it was like the same as heroin. That's new to me.
It fires up the brain in the same way. So when I learn things like that, that just makes me more determined. But also it helps because it makes me realize that I'm not craving sugar or dairy because my body needs it, which you could be excused for believing that for a while. It's like a pregnant woman craving certain foods. Oh, your body needs it. But it's not. It's not because your body needs it. You're just addicted to it.
Mm.
And I'm pretty strong-willed and stubborn. So if someone's trying to scam me, then I've done fasts and things like that. So I can do whatever I want to put my mind to. So to stop eating cheese, doesn't matter how much I crave it, that's fine. And eventually you get past it anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you ever have any cravings ever now? Or have they all gone?
Well, I'm quite lucky really because I don't have anything in the house.
Okay.
So it's not like I'm going to go to the fridge and go, oh, I just fancy that bit. Sugar is probably quite difficult for me. If somebody left chocolates in the fridge, then it'll be like, I'd rather eat it and get it out of the way. It took me a long time to actually throw it away.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, right, so I'd rather throw it in my body and use my body as a bin rather than throw it out. So just mindset stuff. But no, I don't really. I've got a set routine on what I eat. So I tend to have things like fruit and porridge for breakfast, and then maybe like curry and rice for dinner. Don't eat very much bread at all. Everybody likes bread, but don't really have too much. My girlfriend's doing gluten-free, so she's better than me at this, and it just makes it easy. Then is
your girlfriend vegan?
Yeah, not as long as me, but she's very determined and doing the same thing.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah, because we met on a vegan site anyway.
Which one?
Just one of the social media pages.
Oh, okay.
I don't know which one. I thought it was quite funny because people would put on things like I'm vegan for 3 weeks now, blah blah blah, and and on the one hand, that's great. On the other hand, I've done it for nearly 2 decades. So I thought, yeah, fair play to them. They're doing it and they're posting their pictures of what they're doing. So I thought, yeah, because I've been single for a long time. So I thought, okay, I'll do it then. So I took a picture of me with my vegan t-shirt on, and I put down all the things that I've done, and the spiritual things like the healing and that. And I said, I think I'm ready for a great vegan relationship now. And I got a message, and there we go.
That's awesome. So she was the first person as well to reach out to you.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it.
And I didn't think too much of it because she lived like 3 hours away. So and this was in lockdown. So we chatted, and it turned out that she was actually staying at her dad's, was only 40 minutes away. So we ended up meeting, and
oh, that's so awesome. I love it.
And it is good. I mean,
vegan stories.
Yeah, you've just in the past, I would be educating people on what they could eat to do better, and I thought that was okay. And people would, girlfriends would tend to follow a little bit of what I eat, but not because they wanted to.
Because they were trying to please you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm living with someone who's a proper vegan, it's just easy. It's like, we don't want to go out to eat because it's too hard. I joke about the food industry being like estate agents for food. So if it says low sugar, it's high in fat. If it's high in fat, it's low sugar. It's just terrible.
Whirlwind.
Yeah.
Is there where you live, is there is there any whole food plant-based restaurants or anything?
Probably not.
No. You don't care about going out to eat anymore? No,
because it's too difficult, because you think you're getting something, and then vegan, it's like a chili, and then you'll find out that it's sweet chili and they just got it out of a jar, and it's loaded with sugar. I did that at a hotel. My mum said, I'll treat you, I'm taking my neighbours out, I'll treat you. Okay then, yeah. And so she got this menu, and okay then, I'll have the vegan. And it was just a stirring jar of sugary sauce. And and I really regretted going out. So no,
that's fair. Is there such thing as, because you mentioned like chocolate, is there such thing as a non-sugar chocolate?
Oh yes.
What would that be made of? Is that cacao powder or something?
Yes, cacao. And of course, what people don't realise is that cane sugar is actually toxic. But you can use coconut sugar.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So my girlfriend makes her own chocolate.
Brilliant.
But yeah, but people don't realize this. The cane sugar, like in Somerset, the workers would be paid in cider, partly paid in cider. Well, they made that illegal because obviously, paying people in alcohol is not a good practice. But I met one lady, and her husband was from one of the islands where they had the sugar plantations. And she said his race shouldn't even touch sugar because they're like 30, I think it was 30% more likely to get diabetes than another race. But they did pay them in sugar, or part pay them in sugar. So people don't realize how bad the sugar is. And then if you go back through the history of sugar, and you see how much tooth decay there is, and then you look back before sugar was brought to this country, you'll see just how much damage. And then, of course, you've got things like cancer lives on sugar and it feeds on sugar and is created by sugar. I met a guy who was from Singapore, and he stayed with me for a few days, and he went to Poland for a dentist convention, and he was fascinated that I didn't eat sugar. And he said, so this is what he told me. He stood up in the room in Poland, 200 dentists from around the world, and he said, there's an epidemic going on in my country. And he said, the room was just quiet. No one said anything. And he said, am I the only one that can see what's going on? And so from 8-9 years ago, I haven't let my daughter have sugar. And, it took a little bit of training and getting used to what we could eat. But this is what he said to me. When he had his dental practice, some of the parents that brought their children to him were very strict, and they wouldn't let their kids have any sugar. And he thought that was a bit harsh. He thought that they should have a treat. I mean, if you want to poison your kids as a treat, well, fine. But that's what he thought. He said to me, 10 years later, the only children that didn't have that didn't have fillings in his dental practice were the children of those strict parents.
Oh, wow.
I've already damaged my body through sugar. But my daughter's now 16, no fillings, and she eats well. So hopefully she will never need a filling.
Yeah.
I just wish I knew.
Back then.
I really do.
Yeah.
And that's only what we can see.
Yeah, that's very true. Now
they're telling us, in the 80s, the argument between saturated fats and polyunsaturated fats, that was being paid for by the sugar industry so that they didn't look at sugar.
Oh, that's interesting.
So all the time we were arguing over fats and whether fats are giving you heart attacks, it was
We're still eating sugar.
The sugar is just as likely.
Wow. Incredible. Well, thank you for sharing all your wisdom.
You're welcome. Yeah, so you get indigenous tribes in the cold areas. Obviously they can't get vegetables, so they do eat off the land. But if fats were doing all the damage, then they would be having heart attacks. But what they some of the things I read is sugar causes inflammation in the body, and so that kind of furs up your arteries, a bit like going across it with a little Brillo pad until it gets scratched up. So the way your body tries to heal this is it coats the arteries. It's a bit like having a mini plasterer skimming it in the area, making it smooth again. So your body's doing this to repair the damage caused by the sugar. But if you go to your doctor at the time, the doctor's going to say, oh, look, you've got high cholesterol, so they'll give you tablets to reduce the cholesterol. But what they said was there's not a link between there's not higher rates of death or something like that between those that have got high cholesterol and not, because your body is desperately trying to heal the arteries, but by you taking tablets to reduce the cholesterol, your body's not able to do that.
No.
You'll still have a heart attack, but you won't have high cholesterol.
So interesting. Yeah, I've
so,
always, yeah, that makes sense, a lot of sense to me.
Yes. So being, so learning about how to live healthily is important to me. It just so happens being vegan or plant-based is the truth and the way forward.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, what is your favorite, some of your favorite things to eat? Like, especially when you're like, because you mentioned chocolate.
Okay.
So is that what's your, you know, your things that you like to treat yourself with, I suppose? I
make fruit cake with coconut sugar, dates, and sultanas. So I sweeten it that way. And you don't need that much coconut sugar because it's got a flavour to it, whereas cane sugar, there's no flavour to it. It's just sweet.
Okay.
And I think my other one is I make vegan millionaire's cake. And again, that's just sweetened with dates. And then you've got the coating of the chocolate on top made with cocoa or cacao and coconut oil. And that's like to die for, yeah.
Sounds nice. You'll have to share us your recipe.
I will send it to you, yeah.
Absolutely, brilliant.
I had one friend was in the kitchen, and I gave them, I said, try this. And this is what she said to me: if I could have a piece of this every day, I could give up chocolate.
Wow.
But that's the thing. People don't realise that you don't have to give up chocolate. You just give up the sugar.
Yeah. Awesome. That's powerful. That is. Love it. So have you ever been in any, involved in any kind of activism on your journey?
Only my little only teaching people.
Okay.
I do healing and life coaching. So.
Oh, nice. How long have you been doing that for?
Oh, a long time. I started studying mental health when I was in my 20s, and I became passionate about it, and the fact that you can undo the problems, anxiety, depression, all those things. So when I started teaching people, I covered everything I needed to help them, which was law of attraction, how to think your way, how to create the experiences you'd like to have, and of course lifestyle. So yoga, meditation, exercise, diet, it all came in together. So that's how it all came together. I don't know. I don't think I would have wanted to, if somebody said, Steve, go out and study all these different subjects, and I don't think I could have done it, but it just all came together during my lifetime.
That's awesome. Well, I applaud you.
I just seem to be able to remember. I just seem to be able to, retain.
Your brain is a sponge. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, I'm a bit like that with psychology. Like I'm obsessed with psychology. I have been since my early 20s too, actually. And then and I just seem to retain everything I read. Like, yeah. So that's awesome. I admire very much you're a life coach. I'm a coach as well. But I just think it's it's just incredible, and that you're doing, all of these spiritual practices into your coaching. Like, it's just incredible. So yeah, thank you for what you do.
You're welcome. I just feel that is my purpose, and I've always been passionate about it. I can remember when it was my dad that actually paid for us to do Reiki, and he went to meditation groups, so he had friends that were doing healing and things like that. And I can remember him saying to me, would you like to learn how to do Reiki? And I'm like, well, what's that? And then I think he must have described it as like hands-on healing. And the thing that went off in my head was like, what, I could just put my hands on people and heal them like Jesus. I didn't say anything. I just what I thought. So I thought, yeah, I want to do that. That would just be, I can't imagine anything being more awesome than that. And it really was. It really was. And I could just tell you so many stories of just giving people healing and the results. I mean, I wouldn't even believe it myself.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Definitely, you've got to experience yourself first to actually really know.
Yeah, when you get the feedback from people, and you think, well, all I did is put my hand near you for a few minutes, and yeah, it's just great. I love it, and I always did it. It's like when I went back to do my level 2 Reiki, there were people there that were doing the level 2 and they'd never used level 1 on anyone else. And I'm like, really? Because if I went out anywhere, I can remember once I was out with some friends and we went to a pub and one of the girls had a headache and they said, oh, I don't want to go anywhere noisy. And we ended up at this pub and they had a live band.
Oh no.
So I just stood there and I gave them some healing and the headache went. And it's like, okay, if it didn't work, I've just crashed and burned, but I never cared. I just did it. I didn't care about being ridiculed or made fun of. I just did it. And I still get a buzz from it.
That's amazing. Good for you. It's so lovely to hear, people being able to find their passion in the world and their purpose and actually living it, because so many of us don't. So yeah, that's wonderful.
Well, I think the thing to remember, if you study, there's a very good book by Michael J. Logier, The Law of Attraction, and he took the Abraham Hicks books and broke it down into a smaller, very practical book. And when you study the law of attraction, there is nothing that you can give away that you don't get back. Or as Jesus says, give and you shall receive tenfold. So everything you give out, you're getting back. But most of the people in this world only want to give something if they're going to get it back.
Yeah.
And they don't realize how the universe really works. There is nothing that you can give away that doesn't come back to you.
Yeah.
It's a bit like dropping a pebble in the pond and you watch the ripples go out to the end. And that's what most people will say, oh, the ripples go out. What they don't realize, if you watch long enough, the ripples hit the edge of the pond and then they come back to you. And you're like a pebble in the pond of the universe, or you're like a magnet sending out that energy and it's all going to come back to you. So if you want to be happy, the best thing you can do is to make someone else happy. Mm-hmm. If you wish to be abundant, then the best thing to do is to give abundance to someone else, because you cannot give it away without it coming back to you. And once people understand that, we've got this planet changed completely.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
And I think part of the animal thing is to slow down the vibration of the planet. There's so much suffering, billions of animals killed every year. A lot of people just put it to one side as, oh, well, it's part of the food chain. No, I don't think it is.
No.
It's lowering the vibration of the planet. It's lowering your vibration. And if it was just part of the food chain, then you would have to look at other things like major drinks companies putting in aborted fetuses in the drinks for flavouring, which I can remember reading in the paper when I was about 20. And it's like, does no one else get this?
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that.
Yep. Yeah, they put in patents for about 30 years ago, and for the last 30 years, they've been using aborted fetuses in the flavorings of food. And one of the giant drinks manufacturers, just in the last year or two, said they will no longer use the aborted fetuses to flavor their food and drinks.
Good. That's so messed up, though. Oh,
but then you have to ask the question, why did they put them in? Is it some sort of satanic ritual?
Mm.
You can't tell me that it improves the flavor that much that you have to have it.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
There's bigger pictures going on that most people aren't aware of, and probably don't want to know. But the problem is, if you don't know, they'll carry on doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have to know, we have to educate ourselves, we have to make this world a better place. And we will. The positive thing is, in many of the teachings, we're just coming up to 1,000 years of peace. The Bible, Nostradamus, Conversation with God books, are all saying we're coming up to 1,000 years of peace. So all the turbulence that's going on now, that's kind of, the last shake-up. We've never had peace in our known history. And that's for a very good reason, because it was planned that way. So if we're coming up to 1,000 years of peace, imagine all the good work that can be done. Our relationship with this planet, our relationship with animals is just going to be off the scale.
Yeah.
It would not even be considered an option to hurt animals for the sake of food. There is no need. There's never been a need. Or in the majority, not a need.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, even in the Bible, it says that animals were put on here for companionship for man, and in emergencies or situations, they could be used as food or shelter. Well, I think we've taken that to the extreme, because there isn't really anything that flies, walks, crawls that isn't on someone's menu. So somebody got that completely out of proportion.
Yeah, definitely. Greed, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Well, that's what they did with the mad cow disease, because I can remember being on the farm when that came out, and that was, again, what the parts of the cows they didn't use was the brain, the offal. So somebody, in their greed-generated wisdom, decided that rather than throwing that part of the animal away, they would now pulp it up and put it back into cow food. So the cows were now eating cows' brains. Now, in 1960, there were papers written on this and said, if you feed bovine animals meat, because they're not in any way able to break down this food, you will cause major problems to their bodies. And that's where we got mad cow disease from.
Oh, wow.
Because they're very good at just throwing away these research when it comes to supporting their own financial
of course they are. Yeah, of course they are.
But if they turn around and say, oh, we didn't know, that would be a blatant lie, because they did know.
Because why else would they get rid of the evidence?
Of course.
Well, that's mad. I'm learning so much in this conversation. Thank you so much for all this knowledge. It's been wonderful. So I've got one last question as we near to the end. So my advice, what advice would you give to anybody watching that's been thinking about going vegan, but it's not quite there yet? What would you say to them?
Well, if you want your training to go up, if whatever goals you're looking to hit, you'll do it better on a plant-based diet. You've got the game changers, you've got what the health, they're all there. The only people that are telling you any different are the people that got money invested in it. So search for the truth. It's all out there. Research how much protein you need, because the amount of people we have to watch all these survival programs, and every time we're watching this survival program, or people being stranded on an island, and that all they talk about is protein, 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 protein. What people don't realize is just your basic foods, plants, have got protein in it. I think there's something like 16% protein in dandelions, and they also have 10 times more vitamin C than citric fruits.
Oh, wow.
So it's all out there. People would make a fuss of eating spinach, but nettles have got 10 times the iron than spinach.
Nettles are incredible.
Yes. So, yeah, just do your research. If someone is selling you something, then double do your research, because they're in it for the money. Look at the people who are doing it to help you and aren't in it for money.
Mm. Awesome. Well, thank you. So if there is anyone in the audience watching that would like to personally get hold of you, how can they get in touch with you?
What should I do? Give my email address?
Whatever you like, yeah. Or your Facebook?
I'm banned from Facebook, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
Yes, because I shared some vax data, and so they banned me for 90 days. So it appears that, what is it they say? You know who's running, you know who's in charge by finding out who you can't criticize. So yes. So now I'm glad to be off of Facebook, and I probably won't want to go back, to be honest with you. So my email address is mystic, MYSTIC _Steve @hotmail.com. So if anybody would like some help, if anybody would like to do coaching or counseling courses, clearing depression, anxiety, it's usually done in one session. And, you know, I'd like to cover everything within that session.
So have you got, speaking of your coaching, have you got a website for that?
No, I just do word of mouth.
Oh, fair enough. Love it.
Yes, a bit of law of attraction, I think, just applying the law of attraction. What would you like to be? I like to have an easy life and enjoy my life, and that's pretty much what I do. So it all comes in that way.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for this conversation and for everything you do. It's been wonderful chatting to you and getting to know you.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for watching. I hope you've learned as much as I have, and even more. That'd be great. Yeah, and I will see you next time. If you are a vegan yourself, I am always on the lookout for vegans to interview, so please do get a hold of me. You can find me on Facebook, Luna Bloomer, or you can email me on veganbloomers@gmail.com. If you are on Facebook, please do come and join our community if you haven't already. We've got a group called Vegan Bloomers, and I post anything and everything in there to do with veganism, and also occasionally stuff about plant-based health stuff. So yeah, come join us. We'd love to have you. And thank you again for watching. Lots of love, everyone.